What is up, everybody? Welcome to the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. And now with Daytona in the rear view, we have trucks, we have Xfinity, and we have the Cup Series all heading to Atlanta this weekend. We get you ready from a betting perspective next on the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. If you're joining us on YouTube, welcome in. I'd love to hear who is watching us tonight. I see a bunch of people already signing in there. If you're watching us over on X Spaces, hello. Good to see you again. Can't believe it is already week 2 of the NASCAR season. And here we go, another super speedway type event. So if you had fun the first week, you're going to have a lot of fun the second week. So I'm looking forward to kind of diving into it here tonight and hearing what everybody has to say. If you're listening and watching on X Spaces, make sure you drop a message. Want to hear from you there. Same with YouTube. So let's do this. Let's go over a few things. I'm going to go through the outline. And for anybody that doesn't know, I'm Derek Yoder, host of the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. You can find me at Derek Yoder _ on X. You can also download the NASCAR Betting Preview Show on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Let's get into who's here tonight because this is going to be a lot of fun. I'll do a little panel intro. We'll go over the show outline. Got a number of topics. If you're watching on YouTube, you see those topics there on the left. So Phil of the Full Tank with Phil podcast joins us once again. Phil and I were spontaneous last night. We did a Truck Series podcast. You guys can find that on the NASCAR Betting Preview Show podcast. Phil, that was a lot of fun. How are you doing?
Doing good. Trying to keep that momentum going. You know, we just said, hey, the odds are out there. Let's rip and run. And kind of a week where we don't have to study too much and try to kill ourselves trying to dig into the numbers because this is a wild card race. So let's hit it. And happy to be here again tonight talking with you and Greg and Mark as well. It's going to be fun.
You said don't kill ourselves, and then we went like an hour and 10 talking about the trucks at Atlanta, which was a lot of fun. So a good time there. Mark, before I get to you, I do want to say thank you to everybody that listened last week, wherever you found our show. So many people came out and supported on the YouTube side. So thank you. You know, if you're watching there as well, like and subscribe. It does help our friends over at In Between Media out. So many people came out and listened to that via the replay. And I was floored when Seth texted me how many people tuned in. And so many, again, are one of our tried and true fan bases on the X Spaces side came through once again. Mark, you and I had an opportunity to hang out at Daytona a little bit. You were surviving the weather. I went home Monday morning at 5 a.m. You were getting up, probably just getting off your third beer there that morning. We had a lot of fun at the duels. You have a great place, great little spot in the stands where we were able to watch it and have a lot of fun there. Actually, I'm going to do this. Mark's having some technical difficulties. Actually, let's see if we can get him real quick. Can we get you? Mark, testing 1, 2, 3. You're good? Say something, my friend.
All right. We're here.
There we go.
We're here. Let's go.
It was more so my fault. So had a good time with you, my friend, on Thursday. It looked like you took care of the books, if we will, all week long.
We did our absolute worst, and we tried our best to lose more amount of money than we did last year at Daytona, 1 for 40, and it was a complete opposite. So I came on the show last week. I said, listen, I'm not looking at stats. I'm not looking at numbers. I don't care where they finished. I don't care where they ran. I don't care about nonsense. Okay. Yep. We just started the Mike Tyson GIF with the blind darts. That's what we started doing. Started off with Reddick and Duel 1, carried it over to Friday with Sanchez in the truck race. Then I had to sit with my thumb up my rear end for 2 days in Jacksonville, Florida with 2 of my best buddies. And all we did was sit on the couch, drink beer, drink Tito's. We got the thing done. We get to Sunday. We cash again with Byron. And then second place, we cashed Monday. Thank you. one of the biggest letdowns I've ever had was not being able to watch the greatest series in the world in person. And I'm very upset about it. However, had a great weekend, great time, made tons of money. Whoever decided that it was a good idea to tweet my balance out, you're an idiot. So anyway, that's to tell you how much beer I drank this weekend. But no, I had a blast. Looking forward to Atlanta.
I want to ask you about your beer consumption. Joey Logano on Monday, I'm sorry, he led 45 laps. Over under 44 and a half beers you had over the weekend in its entirety.
It's from Thursday to Monday.
Yep.
The over was smashed. I mean, it was not even close.
You had more beers than Logano led lap. So looking forward to taking your success into this week. Hopefully, I mean, you used the word model about 1 million times last week. We'll see how many times you use it here today. You mentioned the word darts. Phil has his own personalized darts that he tweeted out not too long ago. So I like that. And Greg, welcome in. You're representing Win the Race here tonight. Ryan decided it was a good time to go to the beach on the East Coast in the winter. So that was an interesting text I got. But he's with his family, so I hope he has fun. But you're representing Win the Race, and how are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I think
Good.
Ryan looked at the odds this week and was like, "Nah, I got to get out of here." Ryan owes me one.
He certainly does. Yeah, he does. So we're gonna go over a couple of things, and Greg, I'm going to have you be a topic of conversation here for one of our segments. But let's do this. Let's dive into a few things. Again, the show outline, we're going to go over a rapid fire. We did this last year. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people asked, is that coming back? It's back. So we're going to do a rapid fire segment. We're going to go over some track facts and data. I want to hear what the guys have to say from a head-to-head standpoint, get their opinions on their favorite finishing prop if they have one, maybe who finds victory lane, and presented by Victory Fuel, and then going to go over what their best bet is this weekend. So let's go with the rapid fire first. And Phil, actually, I'm going to start with you. Better finish on Sunday, Chastain or Byron?
Chastain.
Okay.
I'll keep it quick and simple because I think I'm going to be talking about Chastain later on. But maybe a little Daytona hangovers in New York City, Empire State Building. I don't know. We'll count the hangover and we'll go Chastain.
I like that. Chastain, nice little tease for a little bit. Mark, how about you? After scoring a top 5 on Sunday, Corey LaJoie will finish where this week?
Not in the top 5. We're going to go 15th. Because, obviously he's ran well at Atlanta, and I'm going to get into this same explanation tonight. But
perfect.
I don't think that running well on super speedways equals a good finish at Atlanta or Talladega or Daytona. So I'm going to go regression to the mean, 15th.
15th. Okay. I was wondering if you're going to say 13th or higher. Greg, how about you? Austin Hill dominates on these types of tracks. Does he get the win again this weekend?
I mean, why would we bet against him? Yeah, he does, and we're all going to be sitting here going, "Wow, we couldn't bet him at plus 300." But yeah, he'll win. Of course he will, because why wouldn't he at this point?
Well, I was telling the guys right before this, because Phil and I were talking last night. Phil was able to go to bed with ease on Monday night, as he just put a bet in on Austin Hill to win, went to bed, woke up a winner. So, Phil, actually, I'm going to go back to you here. Who's under more pressure in 2024? Austin Dillon, Daniel Suarez, or Harrison Burton?
Oh, wow. I would say that's a 3-person hot seat.
It is.
Man, I'm going to say, so I'll rank them. I'll say Dillon the least amount of pressure just because he's got Grandpappy's ride.
For now.
And I would say probably Burton, because I don't see a path for Burton to actually do well enough to justify that ride for long enough. Suarez, I could potentially see that path.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with you. I mean, all three are on the hot seat, and even Brett Griffin on DBC even teased there's a 7-race stretch coming up for where there's going to be a third RCR car. I'm convinced that Austin Hill is going to be taking over the 3 next year, so I'm wondering if he's going to get a little bit more seat time this year. Mark, tease us with one dark horse name going into this weekend.
Well, it's one of those on the hot seat.
Oh, tease us.
I'm thinking,
who's the name?
Well, his name's Mi Amigo. All right,
Mi Amigo. Okay,
he's not as big, not as large as he was last week, but there is one particular market that I'm going to bet him, and I'm going to talk about it tonight.
Ooh.
And the odds are much, much, much longer than the outright top 3.
Okay,
that general area.
Okay. Greg, kind of a similar question. A driver that's flying under the radar, whose price will move, is
Todd Gilliland. I'm going
okay.
to talk about him.
Good.
I'm going to talk
Look
about
at
him
this.
some more later too. Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
You guys are feeding right into what this segment's supposed to be. So this is good. And I'm glad we don't do any questions and understand what you guys are thinking. So this is good. I'm looking forward. You guys are teasing this to a great, you're putting it on a tee here tonight. Phil, Kyle Busch or the field this Saturday in the trucks?
I'm going the field, baby.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't make any sense why
Yeah.
he's priced that way. It's not like he's fantastic at Atlanta in general, super speedways in general, and just the chaos factor of this race, especially in the truck series. 43% of the race was under caution last year.
Yep.
I mean, it's just like he could be running great and get wiped out. So that doesn't make any sense to take Kyle versus the field. You got to go field. And our boy Cody Zeeb agrees. So
I was going to say, whether you're listening on YouTube or Spaces, if anything comes to mind here with any of the opinions being given, make sure you jot them down and write them in. We'll read them for sure. Mark, question for you, and you might have to dwell on this maybe a little bit or maybe not, but after a dismal playoffs, should we have the panic meter on MTJ and the 19 team?
No, that ultimately no, because I think that the Toyotas are going to be fast. I think JGR is going to be fast. I think Truex still has it. It's just, when do you get hot? Unfortunately, last year it was the first 26 races, but I have full confidence that could just flip-flop immediately and he'd be hot for the last 10. So I'm going to say no. We'll see when we get to late April, May, where he's looking, but I'm going to say no.
I'm actually the opposite. I'm saying the panic meter should probably be pretty high. That was a dismal playoff run for them, and obviously they finished 15th last week. It's a speedway race, the same thing this week. But if this team doesn't get off to a good start, they could be some infighting with crew chief, driver, mechanics, all this and that. Greg, biggest mistake you see on social media when it comes to betting super speedway type events?
Thinking that you're sharp, period. Super speedway racing, a lot of us have made money on it, but every bet is simultaneously and I forget who said it. Somebody said it this week. Every bet is simultaneously sharp and not sharp on a super speedway.
That was one, I think.
I think it was. And it's win big, lose small, and that's what you got to keep in mind. I definitely personally, I'm not super risk adverse. I went out there, but that's the mistake, right? Is thinking that you can somehow predict this, because you can't. We can look at it when you say who's good or bad, right? But thinking that you're sharp is it's gonna kill you on a super speedway.
I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Did you bet Chevy plus whatever the best number was you could get? I told you that was the one. So, Greg, you didn't.
No, I didn't, because I went back and I added on Byron, and I decided that Smart. I didn't. I was looking at it. I had 3 bets in front of me. I had Byron, I had Hendrick plus 450, and I had the Chevy number, which I think I could get at like 220 at one point.
Oh, wow.
Like it was up there.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, which one of these do I want the most? I'm like, I want Byron, and I took Byron. So it worked out.
That makes sense. All right.
But yeah, I was looking at it for sure.
That's good. Well, I appreciate you at least looking at it. All right, Phil, close us out here with rapid fire. Monday morning headline will read what?
Calamity in the Atlanta race, and should they reconfigure the track?
Mark, can you spell calamity?
No shot. Calamity. CALAMITY.
Sounds good to me.
No idea.
Sounds good to me. All right, good. All right. Well, we figured out how to spell hellacious this week, so that's good. All right. So that's another one of those segments where I enjoy kind of hearing what these guys have to say, and then kind of gets you guys in the audience a little bit of participation there as well. Now, something and a topic here that we don't normally talk about, but I think somebody like you, Greg, is just a wealth of knowledge with this. And we saw so many people on social media dealing with many issues. We know the rain from Sunday to Monday, and then the start times were causing a lot of issues, especially for those on FanDuel. You mind going over some house rules and just maybe break some things down? Share with us some of your knowledge, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So, I think most people are if you're watching us, you're probably in the know enough to realize that if you had bet on this rate on the Daytona 500 or the Xfinity race this week at FanDuel, those bets got canceled. And to be clear, I think it was the only option for FanDuel given their rules, right? But what people I think often don't understand when they're going into this is, as regulated as the industry is, the books themselves still have a massive amount of room where they get to talk about and set their own rules, right? They get to decide, how they're going to grade bets, whether they're going to use as they cross the line, podium presentation results, whether they're going to wait for post-race inspection. They get to decide how they're going to handle delays. And FanDuel is incredibly aggressive when it comes to delays. FanDuel has in their house rules that if an event does not start within 24 hours of the scheduled start time, the bets on the event are void. And I mean, it killed people, right? I mean, because people had, particularly for a race like this, where you've bet months and months in advance, you have no way of knowing what the weather is going to be, right? You may have had a ton of, what you perceived as value that the line has moved on, and now you're not getting it anymore because they're canceled. So I think the rule sucks at FanDuel, like just to be like perfectly clear. And like, Troy in the chat has it right. If you see rain in the forecast, I wouldn't use FanDuel because your bets are at risk. Right. I think the rule sucks, but I also think given what their rule was, they didn't have a choice but to do that. I mean, like, that's what their rules said. Their rules were very clear. There wasn't any wiggle room on it. So, they had to go that way. And, it killed people, and, it sucks. And I'm sure FanDuel made next to no money on this race for that reason. I mean, if nothing else, that was a stupid move for FanDuel because they lost a ton of money, I'm sure. But so, it's one of those things that you want to look at all the books. The two rules that I pay a lot of attention to when I'm making a bet are how do they deal with a delay? How do they grade bets? Are they looking as they cross the line, or are they looking post-race inspection? And then the other one that matters less in Cup for the most part is, when is a bet action, right? Like, is it action when you place the bet, or is it, do you have to wait for the driver to make the main event? And that's the other one to look at, as because there's some books that the second you bet it, that's action. Doesn't matter whether the driver doesn't show up that week,
right?
that bet's now a loser, right? And so those are the ones that I look at, and I think it's just kind of important to keep those in mind as you're making your bets and doing that. I've kind of outlined those over on Win the Race. We've got a couple of the free articles that go through those, and we obviously talk about it a lot, but it was unfortunate, sucked for a lot of people. But it's what their rule was, and I don't see any way that we get around it.
Yeah, no, it does. And there were a lot of people, I mean, each state's different. Some have many offerings where they can just jump to another book. I also saw a lot of people saying about they are the official partner of NASCAR. They're not anymore. DraftKings is. So you got to remember that. But yeah, I mean, it sucked for a lot of people, but at the same time, to what you said, and you tweeted this out on Twitter, Greg, where you said, hey, this is in their house rules. This is something that they already built in. So we can be pissed, but they have it clearly stated. So if you guys on Twitter or on X, wherever you're at, or YouTube, if you guys ever have any questions, some of these deeper dive questions, like you said, Greg, you have them written on Win the Race, but reach out to Greg. He's one of the most knowledgeable people in this space when it comes to really explaining from a higher level, better than what some of us simpletons can even do, where Greg is able to really just dive in and say, hey, here's what this book, I reached out to this service. He's really one to really help. So make sure you reach out to him to help. Gentlemen, should we dive into some of the statistics and get really talking about some things from a betting perspective? Let's do this. Track history and notes. In the Gen 7 era, Chevy has won 3 of the 4 races at Atlanta. Byron, who just won on Monday, has 2 of those wins. Last year, Joey Logano dominated the event by leading 140 laps and making a last lap pass on Brad Keselowski. We talked about just a few minutes ago how many laps he led this past week. And looking to bet on qualifying this Saturday, look no further than Ford. They've sat on the pole each of the last 4 super speedway types events dating back to Atlanta in the summer. So could be some good value on them heading in. So Phil, let's do this. I want to hear what you have to say from a head-to-head standpoint. Have you been able to find what your favorite head-to-head is in this specific market heading into Sunday?
So I think we were kind of discussing this before the show and maybe a little bit already on the show, but the odds for this weekend aren't great. So with all of that being said, looking at just like head to head, one guy, who do I think is going to beat the other driver? The one that stands out to me is Kyle Busch, who I think a lot of us are kind of anticipating getting ready to break out. Some people have a 8 on their head. Versus Martin Truex Jr. And Derek, you just crushed Truex a second ago. So it kind of fits the billing here. But I have a couple different reasons why. They're pretty close to each other. I mean, stats for this type of race, you could say it's a fool's errand, but it's kind of all I have to go off of here. Their average finish, looking at the last 4 races at Atlanta, are like right next to each other. Truex has a little bit better driver rating than Kyle Busch, but their finishes, to me, I'll call them 2 ships in the night. Truex started with a top 10 and then has gotten progressively worse, whereas Busch has been improving. And, last year in the Chevy ride, really well with a 5th place finish, I believe. So that to me is, pretty big deal. And then looking at the last 6 super speedway races, which is not including Daytona, but last year, the 6 of them, including 2 Atlanta races, he's tied for second. Kyle Busch is with 11.3 average finish. It's a win, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s. He's 5 for 6 in top 20s on these super speedways last year. Whereas Truex had 1 top 15 to his name. So I think Kyle Busch, it's minus 120. It's on DraftKings, I believe, is where I saw that. And I'm a big head-to-head guy. I did well last week with the head-to-heads. I really couldn't find a good matchup other than this one. So I'm glad that I only have to give out one on this show because that's the one that I liked.
It's true. Okay, so you found an opportunity to bet there. How about you, Mark? Have you been able to find a head-to-head that you really are like, hey, I'm going to lay a little coin this week?
Negative, Derek. Okay. I did it last week. I went 0 for 1. I just like Phil said. Listen, Phil is a super speedway matchup king. I don't know how he does it. He just figures it out. He goes, Kyle Busch is going up, Martin Truex is going down. Good enough for me. So I'm going to endorse full tank with Phil. No, I spent negative energy on the matchup market this week. So sorry to disappoint, but I'm ready for the next market.
I like it. All right, let's do Greg. How about you? Did you find anything for us from a head-to-head standpoint with the various books you have opportunities to bet with?
I mean, I've got one that it's a lean on. I haven't actually made the bet though. So I'll just, I'll put that out there. It's a lean. Yeah. I mean, if you go to Superbook, they've got a couple that are getting you plus money on somebody.
Okay.
So I've got Bell plus 105 over Hamlin. And if we go and we look at them at Atlanta and just, citing Atlanta specifically, they've got nearly an identical percent of their laps inside the top 10 at the track. They are about the same top 5.
Yep.
About the same top 3, about the same laps led. Their average running position is within within a position of each other. And so if you're going to give me all of that on a super speedway where, I mean, not a real super speedway, but on a track where we, expect some, a little bit of chaos, right? I'll take the plus money. Bell theoretically was the top Toyota. I don't remember which race it was, but he was then, judged to have gone beneath the red line to advance.
2023 Atlanta. 2023 Atlanta Spring.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, Bell's good here. He's, got, the ability to do that. So I'm definitely, I'll take that, a little bit of plus money, but it's a rough market out there for sure.
It definitely is. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's bad when we get truck odds before we get any Xfinity or Cup Series odds, and it's going to be an interesting week. So let's do this. Let's move into position props. Let's talk about finishing positions. And Mark, I'm going to start with you. Now we know that you are sitting on the sidelines when it comes to head-to-heads. Good on you, my friend. A lot has changed since 2023, so I like that. How about the finishing position props? Have you found anything there that you like?
Yeah, I did. And this is what I teased earlier with old mi amigo Danny Suarez. And I don't mind the 30-1, but after last week when he was like 50 or 60 at some point, I can't justify a 30-1 number on Suarez. However, I was like, all right, let me see what I can get him top 3, top 5. No, they're like 3-1, 4-1. I'm looking at Hard Rock. All right. So I don't know. I haven't price shopped. I'm Mr. Legal Sportsbook over here in the state of Florida. #loyalty to Hard Rock, especially at super speedways. Once we get down the line, I'm going to be price shopping. I'm going to be doing all the normal things. When we get to next week, you'll hear my normal spiel, but I think I made this clear last week. I want to make it clear again this week. We are Mike Tyson blindfold throwing darts at a wall. That's what we're doing here. So I took mi amigo 14-1 for top Chevy.
Oh,
and yeah, top Chevy. And I played around with Highline's model. Once again, I used a little bit of Atlanta. I used a little bit of Daytona. I did like 5 to 8, 6, 7, 8 different types of power rankings. And we're not calling it a model because models swallow. Power rankings spit out winners. Anyway, so the model that I did was equal parts average finish, driver rating, and average running position. And I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it was the last 4 Atlanta races. So the 2 last year, the 2 the year before. So all 4 in the Gen 7 car. Mi amigo popped out 5th. The only Chevy in front of him was numero uno, and that was the awesome Bill from Dawsonville's son, Mr. NASCAR's Fixed, Mr. I will not bet him on a super speedway, not ever, but it's going to be a while after what I witnessed last year. So he's 5th overall. He's a second Chevy, 14-1. I thought that was a huge number. I really thought about betting him top 5 once again. Didn't like the number. So 14-1, Danny Suarez, lock it in. Don't think. Just bet. Does he have the Quaker State scheme this week? Question mark.
Does it matter because it's Ambetter Health 400?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Nope. See ya.
I don't think he does. Greg, how about you? From a finishing position standpoint, what have you been able to find as you look through the markets?
So, again, it's tough, but I went down and Bet365 has a little bit of a silly number on us. They're giving us Williams top 10 plus 800. All right.
Williams?
Hear me out.
I'm with you.
Solid car.
Yep.
We saw AJ take it to the top 10 last week. We've seen him do it at the Xfinity level at some of these tracks. All right. 800, that's too long. I got half a unit on it at that point. And you look at some of the other books, you're down looking at plus 600 plus 500 for it. So that number was just out of line. It kind of jumped out at me. The books are not giving us the long shot odds that we were getting on top 10s here, last year, 2 years ago, where we would get 10 guys, all sitting at like, plus 600. And you could just kind of, say, okay, hey, I'm going to put, quarter unit on, 5 guys. And if one of them hits, I come out. We're not getting that. But when you get a number that long on a car that is not not junk, I got to take it there.
Yeah, so you found a good number there for Williams. How about you, Phil? Did you be able to find anything you like from a finishing position prop?
Well, I'm intrigued by that last one. That's not too shabby because if he does put it in the top 10, that's a payday. It's going to get a lot of people's attention. So that would suck to have to sit there and be like, oh, I didn't take it and listen to Greg. Top 10. One name that I have out there, the value I wish was a little bit longer, but on DraftKings, this driver is minus 120. And in other books, he's plus 120, plus 125 on Bet365 and Bovada. Eric Jones, the driver who finished 8th last week. I can see Jones doing well again this week. Looking at him last year on super speedways, he had 2 top 10s and 4 top 20s out of 6 races. So he keeps himself in the mix. And Atlanta, okay, this is what got my attention. He has the second best average finish since they reconfigured Atlanta. 9.3 is his average finish. That's 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, and he's 4 for 4 finishing in the top 15. And that's the only driver in the Cup Series that can say that. So the name of the game, and I think a lot of times with the super speedways, is like who can just keep themselves in the ball game to be able to, sneak into a top 10 or, a top 5, whatever your market is. And the fact that they went out, they had a good company day on Monday. I think that could give them some momentum heading into Atlanta, where he's clearly done well. So plus 125 on Bovada and Bet365, 120 on Caesars. Clearly they have it, a little better for the gambler than DraftKings does.
Yeah. I like that. Okay. I'm going to throw out one myself. I usually don't get to talk about a whole lot, but I actually like Austin Cindric this week and look for him maybe to finish as the top Ford. We talked about Fords and how strong they are. Cindric is strong at these types of tracks. And I think, again, this weekend that's going to show. So I found a number at him. I'm going to shop it around, but I did find a 9.5 to 1 to finish top Ford. I need to look at what his top 10 price is if it's advantageous enough to invest there, but I like Austin Cindric to be top Ford from a prop standpoint myself. Now, let's go in to an outright perspective and who finds victory lane this weekend, presented by Victory Fuel. Use the promo code at checkout, front stretch, FRONTSTRETCH. I think I nailed that again without looking. Let's find out who goes to victory this weekend. Greg, we're going to start with you.
So this is another one that's just a lean for me because we bet all the value out of Brad Keselowski yesterday when he was sitting out there at 15. So we bet all that value out. But I'm looking at Byron at plus 1,300 over at MGM. I haven't bet it yet. Close, but Byron's owned this track. He's been so good here. Hendrick's been good here, period. It's hard to look at that and go, yeah, that's probably not a little bit of value, right? So I haven't bet it yet, but 1,300 at MGM. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so you like that there. Yeah, like you said, that number got hit the second that it was posted from 15 all the way down to 12, 13. You said you found a spot there. Phil, how about you? Did you find anything? Who goes to victory this weekend, in your opinion?
Yeah, looking, trying to find some value a little bit further down. Everyone's been talking about him in the chat. We kind of mentioned him earlier, but the guy that I was going to talk about tonight was Chastain at 20 to 1.
I like that.
I don't have the math. I know that a lot of folks have the math. Greg, I think you might be part of that crew with Ryan, who's able to tell us, like, is it good value or not? I'm not privy to that, but this is a guy who finished second twice in 2022 at this racetrack. I think maybe going into last season, we were like, yeah, it's got to be Chastain. I have to imagine his number was shorter than 20. We've seen him have success on super speedways. We've seen him have success at Atlanta. We've seen him last week, like, taking the white flag with a chance to win the race. And I liked his comments after the fact. Feel like he's in a good headspace. So Chastain 20 to 1, like, looking at the full list. Yeah, I could get behind a lot of the guys who are shorter, but trying to find somebody, like Greg said, like, I can't do like a bunch of sprinkles on guys that are super long shots in Atlanta because I just don't believe in it at this track. I still feel like the favorites are going to prevail, but Ross at 20 to 1 is decent to me.
I like Ross. I would agree. I mean, what a move. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was agreeing with you. Me too.
Oh, you too. Yeah, I like Ross. Liked him a lot last week. Was very high on him for Daytona, and when he made that move, I was like, "Oh my goodness, we have an opportunity to cash this ticket." But obviously, got spun. So I like that. It's a good value. I think that's a good number. I mean, scored one of his first wins. The second win of his career was at Talladega. We know how strong they can be, and could be one of those things where if he can get out front, we saw it last year. He spun Harvick late, so he will put himself in contention at this track as well. Mark, close us out with this segment here. Who goes to victory lane in your opinion this weekend?
I'm gonna give y'all a little bit of something to chew on for the outright market. I thought that I was Mr. Legal Sportsbook, hashtag Hard Rock Sportsbook, now that we're legal down here in Florida. So, Tuesday, yesterday, odds come out. I'm like, ooh, I'm finally going to be able to beat some numbers, right? This is going to be fun. So immediately scroll down to the board to like 18-1, 20-1, see what I can get down on. I'm like, oh, Reddick and Chastain, both at 20-1. I like those odds. So I immediately bet them. I bet Reddick and Chastain both at 20. And after I bet it, I am sitting on my high horse. I'm like, these guys, they're going to move. This is going to be great. They're going to be 18 when I wake up. They're going to be 16, by the show on Wednesday. Wrong. They're still at 20, which is good for you. So go ahead and get Chastain. You got a couple of us up here. Derek included that like Chastain, a couple guys in the chat that like Chastain. He's going to stick his nose where it doesn't belong. And I know we've all done that a time or two in our life, but one time it's going to pay off. I don't know when it's going to be, but one time it's going to pay off. So I like Chastain. Now, the bet that I have the most money down on right now is Brad Keselowski 12-1. And if it weren't for a certain group of someone's, we could have got it at 15, but that's okay. I was sleeping. I was not. Maybe I was working. Who knows? Maybe I was still drunk from this weekend. I don't know. I got down at 12-1. All right. Last week at Daytona, my lowest odds that I bet were Byron at 1750. This week, I told myself I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not dipping into the top tier odds. No shot. I'm just not going to do it. But once again, played with Highline's model a little bit. Did about 6 or 8 different models. I made some notes for each one. I did spend a little bit of time on this. Okay. I'm not like a total idiot, but I spent a little bit of time. So I don't remember how many it was, but let's just call it 6. All 6, Brad Keselowski was in the top 10 of all the power rankings. No matter if you looked at all 13 Gen 7 races, if you just looked at last year's plus the 500 this year, if you looked at all 4 Atlanta races, it didn't matter. Brad Keselowski was at the top of the board. The one that he was number 1 at, and of course I'm just an idiot and I don't have it in front of me. Anyway, so he also passes the eye test. I wanted to spit that out as well. He passes the eye test. Him and Busher, they're always up at the front. They're leading laps. Obviously, he didn't throw the block fast enough on, last year. Was it Logano or Byron, whoever it was? Anyway, didn't throw the block fast enough. He kicked himself in the ass. But the eye test is something that I like to look at super speedways. So, he arguably has one of the best resumes during the race at super speedways, maybe not the finishes, but during the race. So I expect Brad and his teammate to be up at the front.
Oh, is that a tease? His teammate, is that a tease for something? Possibly.
Maybe.
Okay. So then let's do this. Let's move into, what we've dubbed as, best value on the board. We go through these certain markets, right? But then there is some value, whether it's something we already talked about or there's something still laying out there for us to discuss. So let's go over some best values, favorite play on the board right now. And Phil, we're going to kick it off with you first. Where are we going? If anywhere. Maybe we're not going anywhere. That face just told me, do not come to me.
A best value, I always struggle with that question. But
do I need to rephrase it?
I'll
just trucks.
I'll
trucks
throw something out there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Timmy Hill, top 5. But
he's not kidding. He's not kidding.
Yeah. I'll throw something out there that's a little off the beaten trail, I guess. I could see. I'd like to hear what people think, actually.
I like it.
How about plus 260 for a top 10 for John Hunter Nemechek? Finished 7th on Monday. And looking at his numbers at Atlanta in the various series that he's driven there, he's pretty solid there, man. Finished, 3rd in the trucks where he led 53 laps. He won an Xfinity race here, finished 8th in Xfinity. Obviously, it's not apples to apples, right? But you're getting a feel for this, like you called it, a handling super speedway, Derek. And so I feel like there's an element of skill to this track more so than just being caught up in the draft and you're along for the ride at the other 2 big ones. So if you can figure that out, legacy, like I said about Eric Jones, some momentum. So he's just a name that I'll throw out there as a kind of a wild card, end of the show. Have at it.
Well, I like the John Hunter Nemechek, and our guy SC called out and said, according to Betfred, John Hunter is winning this weekend. Did you see what his odds were to win the race at Betfred? Greg, did you see that at all?
9 to 1.
9 to 1. They priced him as the favorite by mistake. Yeah.
So
they missed,
really?
they missed a 0.
No,
that was supposed to
they
be
missed
90.
a 0.
That's
that
funny.
was supposed to be 90.
That's funny.
So it is funny. So good call out there. That was funny seeing that. But I didn't realize that John Hunter finished 7th. I could have sworn that he was in some type of an accident of some kind on Monday. Was I wrong in that?
I think Legacy finished 7th, 8th, didn't they?
Yeah, that's impressive.
They did, but if we recall on lap 6, John Hunter forgot how to block.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
That's fun. Yeah, okay. So
and dare I mention that how many cautions did he cause in the Xfinity race?
I didn't see the Xfinity race. Remember,
at
I bet
least
it went
2, arguably 3.
Yeah,
okay.
he said,
if he
hold my
takes
beer.
out all of the competition,
yes.
then he might be able to finish top 10.
See, I wish there was a thing out there, because we know Carson Hocevar has been known to cause an accident or be involved with an accident a time or two. Be interesting if there was something out there where which driver will get into some type of a mishap of some kind. So, Mark, how about you from a value perspective? I don't know if you're going to go with a Ford, maybe the number 17, but where are we going?
Crazy guess, Derek. So to answer Phil's debacle here, the way that I look at value is, all right, I'm at a super speedway. All right, I'm scrolling the board. All right, Chris Buescher, 25 to 1. Why is he 25 to 1? In what world does that make sense?
True.
Okay.
True.
That is the only reason I'm betting this. This is a strictly numbers play in my mind. So I like to think about the odds before the odds go. And I like to look before the odds get released. Obviously, nothing new here, but that's the first spot that I look, and I'm like, wow, I was expecting Buescher to be in the 16 to 20 range. Yeah. He is now at 25. That's ridiculous. Boom, click to place bet. So Chris Buescher, like the same argument I made with Keselowski, the Fords have been great. RFK has been great at super speedways. They've led a shitload of laps. I expect both of them to be at the front. I expect Chris Buescher to be at the front, and that's all I got. Chris Buescher, 25 to 1.
I like that call out. I just wrote that down. That's going to be added to my card on Sunday. So thanks for calling out 25 to 1, because that could be something where I was talking about earlier. And Greg, I think I asked you, who is somebody that's price will move come Sunday? And if Ford comes out and has a strong qualifying effort, well, that number is going to go way down, knowing that he scored a win at a comparable track. So, Greg, who is somebody that you are looking at from a best value, best bet standpoint heading into the weekend?
So for me, it's Todd Gilliland, top Ford. I was looking through the numbers and I got to bet 365, and I'm looking at it and I just went, bet 365. What are you doing? Also, please continue doing it.
Please.
Because they've got him at 40 to 1.
Oh, okay.
What? That makes no sense. All right. He was legitimately leading the 500 for multiple laps, like raced his way up there, took the lead, held the lead, was running inside the top 10, top 5, could have, if he had not been caught up in those late wrecks, had a legitimate shot to be the top Ford last week. Hell, could have won that race. He had a car that was capable of winning the race, and you're getting me 40 to 1 to be the top Ford. What the heck are you doing, bet 365? But also, please keep doing it. It was hard for me to not go a full unit on that, because that just screamed value at me. I stuck with half a unit on it because, at those odds, it's still, a little risky, but I'm good with that all the way down to he's at 28 at Caesars, and I don't hate it at 28. But he's 30 at some other books, and I would immediately click bet at 32. It makes no sense to me. Also, you look at those front row cars, they are now getting more Ford support. They are now, top tier partners with it makes no sense. These cars can race. We saw them race last week, and you're going to give me 40 to 1 to be a top Ford. Yeah, all day.
Yeah, it's amazing when you can get like a winning, essentially a really, really significant outright ticket on a guy just to win his manufacturer. And how many Fords are there off the top of our heads? I think there's like 9, maybe 11. I could be wrong in that. There's a lot of 2-3 type deal. I mean, SHR's 4. So I would say, out of 11 or 12 cars, that's not too bad. 40-1 there for Gilliland. I like that. That's a good call out. Is there anything else?
13 entered. 13 entered.
13. Okay. Interesting. So I like that call out. 40-1. And you said what book was that?
That was at 365. I've seen
We like
30 at a couple of other books. And like I said, I like 32. I'd immediately clicked bet on 30. I just was fortunate enough to check 365 before I did.
It does bring up a good question. Phil, I'm going to toss this to you because there was one thing I was thinking about over the weekend after this announcement was made, and they did this deal, this partnership a month ago. Why it didn't get, or how it didn't get leaked, why it didn't come out until qualifying blows my mind. But how do you look at somebody like Michael McDowell? Because McDowell was somebody that won on the road course. He won at Indy last year. We know he's got good success on speedways. But do you look at him and that team a little bit different now, especially on like mile and a half? Let's take out Atlanta because that's a different style track. But do you kind of think I got to think about this guy and this team a little differently, or maybe business as always, or business as usual?
Well, I guess you're talking like mile and a halves and more of the tracks.
Cookie cutter.
It's kind of a let's see him do it before I can really get behind it. But I have more faith. Like for example, I was not considering taking McDowell yet in these first 2 tracks for our one and done pool because he's someone that I'm like valuing more these days. Whereas opposed to 3 years ago, I probably would have taken him right off the bat in Daytona and just been like, hey, he's a guy, get him out there. He's good on the super speedway. And then I don't have to worry about him. So I guess that's a way that I'm thinking about him differently, is that I consider him an asset in a pool like that. Or, if you're doing your fantasy where you only get to start certain amount of starts for a driver, like I don't want to waste starts like I can with some of the other guys on the big tracks where they could get wiped out.
Is there Mark or Greg? I'll go over to you guys, whichever one. Somebody that you're keeping an eye on going into Las Vegas at all? Obviously, the speedway element with Daytona and Atlanta, kind of its own unique thing. I actually personally like it from a fan's perspective and getting new viewership in because it is exciting racing. But from a betting standpoint, we're obviously looking ahead and waiting for Las Vegas to come around to be able to talk about some of these other markets in depth. Is there a driver that comes to mind that you're like, okay, I'm kind of secretly hoping to be finding an opportunity to bet on this guy going into next week? Greg or Mark?
I don't have a particular driver, but I am going to find it quite interesting to see if let me back up. I'm sorry. I think Toyota and Ford are going to be fast this year, and I'm curious if Chevrolet can keep up. That's my bold / nonsense / shot in the dark guess on what the speed's going to be this year. I think Toyota is going to be very fast, and I we'll see if Chevy can keep up. Obviously they just won the 500. Whoop-de-doo, don't care. But we'll see. That's my prediction.
Is that because of the new car, in your opinion?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I should have, dumbass me. Should have freaking said it. Obviously, Toyota and Ford have a new body style. Chevy does not. Chevy's got the notes. Chevy's got the data that's tried and true. It's freaking fast. Byron won 6 races last year. But I think that there's smart people at both Ford and TRD that have enough data and that they looked at over the last 2 years to put together a faster body style car. So I think that that's going to do nothing but improve their speed.
How about you, Greg? Anything that you're kind of keeping an eye on just as we look ahead a little bit, again, with this unique first 2 races? Anything that maybe is something you're keeping in the back of your mind?
Alex Bowman made me a ton of money at Vegas 1 last year. He obviously then went and got hurt, which sucked, and he did not look the same the rest of the year.
No.
I think he looked like I'm comfortable betting on him again. This past weekend. I want to see how he does, at Atlanta too. It's a little bit racier, a little bit more competitive. Bowman.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. So I think it's always good when we can kind of look ahead a little bit. I know so many of us, especially in the industry here, are just chomping at the bit just to get to Vegas and then a nice little run of tracks where we're going to see a lot of variety and give us an opportunity to really build a sample size going into the summer months. I'm going to start with you, Phil. Anything else that we didn't talk about that we want to cover here tonight? Anything from a Truck Series perspective or anything that comes to mind before we close out?
No, I think we're good. I mean, the trucks we got after a little early this week. We were kind of shooting from the hip.
It felt pretty good.
It did feel good. We're trying to bounce back after licking our wounds in our driver group game against the NASCAR Gambling Podcast crew. So we're gearing up, and like you said, don't get caught up with the Kyle Busch hype from the books in that one. Look to some of these other guys like Ben Rhodes, bounced back. Race 12-1 is what he was at last night. So I think that's I'm good, and
cool.
Glad we had a good conversation and excited for Vegas, like seems like most people are.
How can everybody find you, support you with what you're doing with your show and on Twitter, Instagram? Looking for maybe a specific parlay this weekend even.
We've got a very specific parlay that we're putting out. I'm going to be recording the podcast right after this, a little late because of the Monday Daytona. But Full Tank with Phil's the name of the podcast. Appreciate it. Full Tank Phil on Twitter and Instagram. Give me a follow there, and we'll be recording and getting this out there later tonight. So appreciate everybody's support and having these conversations. It's going to be a good weekend.
Yeah, it helps us get our minds right going into the week. I mean, Mark, you called out Buescher 25-1, and Greg, you called out a nice 40-1 ticket on a top Ford. Mark, going over to you. How can everybody support you? And is there anything else that we didn't maybe touch on that you wish we would have?
No, just glad we didn't dwell on matchups. Glad we got past that quick. I'm just kidding. Have fun. Don't bet money you don't have on super speedways. I don't care how good you think you are, how good us four are up here, or anybody else. Just don't bet more money than you're willing to lose. It's like going to Vegas to play blackjack. All right. At Skybox NASCAR on Twitter. Laying Coin drops Friday morning on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify with my two boys, Zach Highline Betting and Rory Picks, who we have plenty of stories to tell from last weekend. I tweeted a picture under NASCAR's tweet your favorite picture. You can't even tell what's going on. That's how many beers we drank. Anyway, appreciate you, Derek, as always. Greg, shout out to you. Ryan, I know you're listening. Love you, buddy. Have fun on the freezing cold beach, and we'll see you guys next week.
Also, don't tweet out your bet slips or your whatever.
God, dumbass. Whoever. That was Roy's fault. Blame it on him.
I blame it on the Busch Latte. Greg, how about you? How about you close us out here? Is there anything else we didn't talk about we wish we would have by chance? Or if not, then how can everybody support you, win the race, and everything you got going on? Good information tonight.
No, I'll just echo the last comment there, right? All right. As sharp as we might think we are, as great as we might think we are, it's super speedway racing, guys. Like, just you got to be smart about this. That there's no two ways about that. But that said, no. So I'm over at wintherace.info. We're doing tons of DFS stuff over there. We got our models for betting as well, and we're putting out the content on that. You can catch me at gmathern84 on Twitter, or X, I guess these days. I keep doing that.
I do the same thing.
It's never gonna end. It's been a blast, and let's get to Vegas. Vegas is ready for us.
Yes, Vegas is ready for us. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys, again, for you coming on and joining us each and every week. And best way to support me for those maybe new or listening, at Derek Yoder _ on X is the best way to get in touch with me. Follow the NASCAR Betting Preview Show at NASCAR BPS on X as well. Download Apple, Spotify, and also maybe watch the replay, either back on X Spaces here, which will be pinned to my X account, or on the YouTube side, and helping our buddies over at In Between Media and supporting what they're doing, because they continue to grow. The sky's the limit for them. So make sure you're supporting them. Guys, appreciate it as always. Looking forward to this week with Atlanta, and really looking forward to next week as we get ready for Las Vegas.